I was intrigued by this headline because, of course, I'm interested in the role of coffee in disease, but I had never heard of leaded coffee before. We're supposed to drink leaded coffee to reduce our risk of congestive heart failure. What was I to do? Go and get a piece of lead and shave it into the coffee, or get some lead shot and sprinkle that in, or maybe some lead carbonate and dope my coffee with that? I didn't know what this was all about. I mean, I knew, of course, that lead has a very checkered history in terms of toxicity. All kinds of evidence that people who drank from pewter mugs, which used to be made of lead, had all kinds of colic or mental problems. Knew that Vincent van Gogh painted sunflowers, one of my favorite paintings. Lead chromate was the yellow color, and he would take his brushes and put them in his mouth to make the tip more amenable for painting. And of course, we know he suffered from all kinds of problems. And then, of course, there was a story of leaded gasoline. Wasn't that interesting? First, when cars came out, the engine knocked, made all kinds of sounds. So, of course, the industry was troubled by this. And Thomas Midgley, a chemist, tried all kinds of things to reduce the knocking. He tried adding things like camphor, melted butter to the gasoline. That didn't work. But eventually came up with tetraethyl lead. And leaded gasoline was the gasoline that we used until the 1970s. Even though we knew the toxicity of lead, we knew that people who lived close to highways had more lead in their body and would sometimes develop symptoms. By the 1970s, lead started to be taken out of gasoline, not because of toxicity, not because it poisoned people, it poisoned the catalyst. And catalysts, of course, catalytic converters were being put into cars in order to reduce pollution. So anyways, slowly lead faded out of our life, at least certainly in gasoline. Novel additives were found that also reduced the knocking without any of the problems associated with it. But what about this leaded coffee? What was I supposed to do? Stir my coffee with a lead pencil? Don't worry about that. There's no lead in there anyway. That's actually graphite. That's a misnomer. In the Roman times, they used to use lead sticks and clay tablets, but that's a long time ago, so don't worry about your pencils. Well, what was the leaded coffee about? Turned out that when lead was taken out of gasoline, a lot of people didn't like it because they didn't think that their cars were as powerful. And somehow leaded also became associated with coffee as being powerful. People wanted power. So they would go into a restaurant and say, don't give me any of that weak, unleaded coffee. Give me some of that robust, strong coffee, the leaded variety. So that's how we started to learn about lead and coffee, which has nothing to do with lead, the metal. Leaded coffee just means powerful coffee. Now, what about that study about heart failure? Interesting. They looked at data from the original Framingham study that started in 1948, Framingham, Massachusetts, and people and their descendants have been followed since that time about their diet, their health, etc. And what the evidence shows is that those people who drank 2 or more cups of strong black coffee, that's the leaded variety, were less susceptible to congestive heart failure. Of course, you have to take that kind of study with a grain of salt because people may have had other differences in their life as well. But anyway, you don't have to worry about lead. And I like to drink the 2 cups of leaded coffee a day. I don't know if it's going to do anything for me, but it tastes good. At least now I know that I don't have to worry about it.